And we are back here for panel session number 3. And to do so, let me talk a little bit about the moderator, someone who has got an icon title to his name, in fact. So this person who's going to moderate the next panel session has done tremendously a lot over the span of 4 decades in the industry. So basically, he has been very, very active, and over the past, he has held posts as president and chairman. In fact, here's a sneak peek, yeah? Over the past 40 years, he has held a number of national and international travel tourism associations, and also in various capacities, and that include formerly as the chairman of Pacific Asia Travel Association, and is currently the life member and board member. And he was also the president of Malaysian Association of Tour and Travel Agents, MATA, and ASEAN Tourism Association, and an honorary member as well. And previously, he was also a president of FATA, and also not forgetting the founder and chairman of the National Tourism Council of Malaysia. And also, this is interesting, so many chairmans and president title. Chairman for Indian Ocean Tourism Organization. So he's currently the APG Network board member and regional vice president. I guess we all can guess by now whom I'm talking about. He's currently appointed as the board of directors of APG France and Travel Partnership Corporation Incorporated, USA. It's none other than the group executive chairman of the Melawari Group, the group president of tourism-related companies of the group, which includes Mitra Group of Travel Companies, Pacific World Travel Sdn Bhd, World Express Malaysia Sdn Bhd, and APG Malaysia Sdn Bhd. Let's welcome our moderator. It's Yang Mulia Tunku Dato Sri Dr. Iskandar bin Tunku Abdullah, an icon who actually received an award for Tourism Award, Icon Award in 2019. And he will be moderating, all the way up to Yang Mulia, a panel session with the title Business Recovery and Mastering Hybrid Events, because we know the virus is not going to go anywhere for quite some time. It's going to be hybrid, and it's not as simple as it looks. For those who are organizing hybrid events, yes, it's actually much, much more work put into compared to physical events, purely physical events. But we are moving towards recovery, and I'm sure we will get there as soon as possible. To join him on stage, we have our panelists, and I would like to just introduce our panelists up on stage. We have Mr. Presanth Chandra, Chief Executive Officer of Travel Business Media Sdn Bhd. Yang berbahagia, Dato Yj Lim, Vice President of Malaysia Semiconductor Industry Association. Mr. Cheah, who's the Managing Director of Dreamz Production Events Management Sdn Bhd. And not forgetting also Mr. Lee Mark, Group Chief Operating Officer, The Hot Shoe Show and Company Sdn Bhd, also known as the Hotshoesasia. So let's welcome our panelists and of course our moderator, Yang Mulia. Over to you, Yang Mulia.
Test by default. Yeah. Well, thank you very much, Caroline, for the very generous. Next time I better give a short biodata. Very generous introduction. Assalamualaikum, salam sejahtera. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the afternoon session, the third session of Tourism Reconnect, and hopefully not the sleepy session. Yeah, please wait. Please, I know we've had a very nice lunch with the soup tulang and the lamb masala and all that still in our tummies. So let's try to stay awake for this very interesting session. In this panel session, we shall discuss on business recovery and mastering hybrid events. Of course, by now, we know what hybrid events are because we are in one such hybrid event. Many of the world would actually like to forget the past 2 years. There are, however, a few lessons that we can benefit from, and one such is the innovations and the evolution that has taken place that we had to resort to so that we would be able to meet each other even though we could not travel to do that. And what has become the way of doing business that we've depended on is online, which has become necessary for life to carry on. So someone up there pressed the reset button, and because of what's happened, we now have to go on with our lives in a rather different way from what we used to. And in order to survive, online platforms, holding meetings, conferences, trade exchanges, and information sharing were improved on. They existed, but they were improved on, and more were created. However, as countries started to open up to travel and others remained closed, it became necessary to combine this in-person events with the online platforms to provide for the interaction for those who could participate in person and online only. Therefore, the concept of hybrid events was developed, and what we know today is whether or not these concepts and evolutions will enable business to carry on, to take us to the next episode, and to be change ready. So with us today are four very distinguished panel speakers who have been invited because of their knowledge and their experience. No doubt we are a rather diverse group, but because of this diversity, I'm sure we can get different viewpoints and opinions and feedback from different people in a different way. In no particular order, well, in some particular order, because next one to me, I'm going to mention first.
Kind of pre-plan.
Well, Dato Yj Lim, who's here beside me. He has been introduced just now as the, he has a bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering, but currently he's the vice president of MSIA, or the Malaysian Semiconductor Industry Association. He's the independent board director of a listed company called Rapid Growth Technology that is also a manufacturer of items such as medical devices, I believe. And previously he was the regional vice president of Plexus Corporation, a US-based organization in the manufacturing service industry for quite a number of years, 14 years I believe. So Dato Yj Lim.
Thank you.
Further down, holding the hand mic, is Dato Mark Lee. He wants me to call him Mark. He said, don't call me Dato.
No, Dato. No,
He's the group's
Lee.
He's a group CEO. I've known him so long, since the early days of one of my travel companies. CEO of Hotshoesasia. His company helps clients build their brand, and he goes on to that extra mile to help them achieve that. He's also the Vice President of Events Management of MASIOS, the Malaysian Association of Convention and Exhibition Organizers. And he has been recognized internationally and in Malaysia for his achievements and many awards for organizing innovative events, marketing campaigns, and product launches on behalf of the clients and the industry. So that's Dato Mark Lee.
I think this Mark, no Dato.
Mark, yes.
My
After this,
grandchild
Mark
not out
only.
yet.
In the middle here is Presanth. Presanth Chandra has been part of the Malaysian tourism industry for the last, he tells me, 17 years. Maybe he started when he was about 10 years old. And he's a co-founder of Tin Technology Group, which is a media and technology company in Malaysia. By the way, tin has got nothing to do with timah or tin cans, but rather is the acronym for Travel Industry Network. He's currently the Chief Technology Officer of the Tin Tech Group, and he defines strategies for many successful digital products and was awarded as one of the 100 most influential leaders in tourism technology in 2019 globally. By the way, he has also developed a software for associations to be able to do their work and to be able to communicate with association members. So maybe some of you might be interested on that. So Presanth Chandra here.
Thank you so much.
And last but not least, at the end there is Mr. Cheah Wy Lim, or he's known as Cheah WY, WY Cheah, the director of Dreamz, production, events management, Sdn Bhd. He was the first in Penang to actually obtain the Certified Marketing Professional Certification, or CMP, from the Events Industry Council in 2021. And, but he also possesses 20 years of industry experience, and he leads Dreamz, which he founded in 2007. And prior to that, several industry activities such as planning, marketing, public relations, and communications. WY Cheah.
Thank you, Tunku, for the introduction.
So I'm looking at the time to make sure that we are on time, and we are. And I will invite, firstly, each one of our panelists to say a few words about their particular and specific sector. What has happened over the last 2 years, and perhaps a couple of minutes each, gentlemen. Anyone will start, Dato? Or
you want me to start? Okay.
Everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm retired from the actively in this, as what I call it as EMS industry, is basically electronic manufacturing services, Plexus. I've been working that company for 21 years, you know. So, I report to the COO of the company, which is based in Wisconsin. You know. In the early years, I mean, in the early times of the pandemic, it was challenging, obviously, because there was a lot of uncertainty, how we react, how how long it's going to last, and so on. So we had to kind of roll with the punches, right? Basically, in short. Right. So first thing, the association, as Dato Sri S.H. Wong just now mentioned, the first thing we did as a group, through at that time AmCham, was to declare that the electronic industry, semiconductor industry are considered as a critical or strategic industry. So we were one of the earliest to allow a certain percentage of workers to able to go to work. Okay? Of course, we lump up with support from our headquarters as well as the countries, some of the countries like Japan or United States, where they have significant interest to keep their electronic product flowing, as well as electronic is a lot of time the building block of a lot of medical devices, so they managed us, put us in there. So as a group, we also have few people specialized in understanding the COVID as much as we can, and try to position appropriately, balancing between livelihood and lives, so whereby the government has continued to relax, and we greatly appreciate the support everywhere, including getting the government to understand that keeping the factory open is just one small part of the whole thing. The whole supply chain include a bus driver who ferries the people from the home to the factories and back, logistic companies and many other companies that are. Of course, I think the factory did help a little bit. I'm not trying to claim credit here, but when they are forced to reduce their number of bus load by 50%, we were greatly appreciative of the tourist tourist buses, whereby we can pull them in, to keep our factory running, So definitely there's some synergy there. Thank you.
Thank you, Thank you. How about Presanth?
All right. So thank you
so
much.
Last 2 years.
Thank you, Tunku, for the introduction, and good afternoon, everyone. So basically, as a technology company, we talk about hybrid. Today we're talking about hybrid. So we basically developed a hybrid event platform from the scratch. It was basically before the lockdown starts, we started building, and then it was a good time for us, as a lot of demand surged immediately, and then so we. As of today, we did about 400 plus events and about 200,000 attendees from 65 countries we have serviced through this platform. And even today, I can see, almost 100 over plus attendees were virtually registered, and we could see from even 10 or 12 countries, So that's what we normally do, and we also have developed other softwares related to the industry. Yeah. So
Thank you, Presanth.
thank you so much.
Mark?
Yeah, thank you. Actually, if I have to do an introduction, I'm quite long-winded, so I will just keep it simple. I would like to say that maybe I'll start off with a joke, which we will leave it to Cheah to say it later. No. So my organization started off as a performing organization and went on to event management right down. With the situation, we are already transiting to digitizing our business process apart from digitizing events. So we are all about experience, emotions, and engagement. So with that, we are trying to establish the fact that if there is a differentiator factor, regardless whether it's digital or physical, right, we are trying to help our clients and the brands that we work with to get an unfair advantage. In summary, I sell happiness.
Good. I love that, selling happiness. We must have the happiness index, like Bhutan does. Okay, WY, how about you in your industry?
Thank you, Tunku, for the introduction. And after Mark's introduction, I think he just set a benchmark there, right? Well, I was introduced to a job 20 years ago, back in 2002. A job, then eventually I grew passion and interest in the industry. And throughout that time, until 2 years ago, I've only seen all the upside, the growing path, the journey of this events and exhibition industry. Never once crossed my mind that, this pandemic would hit us, and it's very unprecedented, I would say. I'm sure for many as well. And yeah, we suffer tremendously. But lucky for us, we have a team that are very understanding, and we have a committed team, and we try to find ways and solutions, and of course pivoting, that's the term we use now, going towards virtual, from virtual then we move back to hybrid, and then now today we are talking about whether the hybrid model is here to stay or not, and these are all a journey, a process. But where is the end game? Today we're talking about hybrid model, right? How it will help the future of this industry. Well, coincidentally, I saw in a posting in LinkedIn just now that they are talking about how metaverse will change the industry. So, where will this go? Which path? What is certain? Which direction? I think these are all still work in progress. Although we have a glimpse of what's the direction going to be, I guess this forum is timely so that we can discuss and gives everyone an insight, through our sharing. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you, WY. And I'm sure you'll share later what metaverse is with the audience, because not everyone would be conversant with that aspect of...
I think Mark will be the right person to speak about this. Yeah, I'm just getting familiar with the term.
We'll remember that. We'll give him the platform for that. Now, the focus of this event, as we are here, is how to create more events to make tourism flourish. I suppose that's the end point that we want to try to achieve. And what has happened is that, as I mentioned, we have a reset button pressed, and so we have to look at things with different eyes and a different mindset. And I think I would like to ask Presanth, actually, if you could have share with us any thoughts that you have on how we could better do this, or do this successfully, to create more events, different kinds of events, to enable tourism to flourish once more.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So basically, if you talk about events, if you talk about any corporates, events is one of the leading strategies for marketing, right? Events is the fastest way to bring a bunch of people into a place, whether it is physical or virtual. And I think, places like Penang, PISA is doing a fantastic job by, bringing all the thought leaders into one room and talking about how we can better it. There are two things when you talk about event. One is, what is the purpose and who are the audience, right? So when we start designing any events, these two questions are very vital, that who are you doing this event for, and what is actually the purpose of this event. So if you talk about promoting tourism, I would say, again, tourism is more of a physical format. We should make sure that people should come into a destination, spend their money, move around, see things. So it's more of a physical interaction is what we expect, talking about promoting tourism, right? Physical format of tourism. So I think, we have all these wonderful associations, all our members, association like PATA. I think we should all the associations should have a think tank on events, and it's not about, see, there are two types of events which I experience, here. One is, somebody is asking you to curate event for their purpose. For example, a corporate comes and say, okay, can you do an event for us? We want to do this day, for our employees or stuff like that. But another type of events is like we basically keeping the sort of engagement. It can be for a social cause, it can be for promotion, it can be for any sort of subjects, right? So I think we should have more those type of events where we create events, and apparently that will encourage more and more people to join from around the world. Now we have hybrid, so and that can be the best way. I think events are the best way to market a destination, be it to offline or online.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you, Presanth. I think that's very interesting events to create events, or events to encourage tourism. And I'm sure that's something that a theme that perhaps we all can basically agree on. Mark, I'm sure you have something to say on this as well, because we are both on Taylor's University's hospitality and tourism advisory panels, and we all chip in to say what should go in the curriculum and so on and so forth. So Mark, I'm sure you can share more on this.
Thank you for the honor and opportunity to share my 2-cent opinions, right, and my little experience, right. I generally agree with what Prasad say, but I will look at it slightly different. If we are talking about how to create events to get to do traction or do economic impact on tourism, I would like to look at it as the nature of business, because it's a very complex issue which I think I cannot answer. So it's a matter of who are we talking to, and then in terms of the ecosystem, whether the service providers or the organizations or organizers or brands, and then the products itself, whether you talk about attractions, venues, F&B and shopping. Generally, as far as, if I put it in my perspective, you have your both inbound and outbound, that scenario here. But I will look at it in terms of consumer journey. So when we do consumer journey, there's pre-event, then of course the event, or whether it's a series of event, and then there's post-event. So if the pre-event, the question should be asked is, why us? Why not somebody else? Why this place, and why this organization, or why this location? And as far as the event or the series of events that we're talking about, what we believe in my organization believe is the experience, emotional, and engagement. So we try to get everything into the post scenario where we try to create memories for them. We address our strat. It goes according to awareness, lead generation, conversion, and remarketing. So different purposes, whether it's singular event or a series of events, whether it's physical or digital, all right, it's done in that sense because there are different needs, different size, different budgets, I suppose, and of course different purposes. And the whole idea is to generate enough data to observe a behavior that you can capture and to turn it into a business down the road. Is it right? Right. So we feel that end of the day is if you are dealing as your own event, if it's done by a precept event, if it's done for an association, generally we have to look into the happiness metrics itself. So if it's just say, if it's online or traditional, it has nowadays we believe it should be omni-channel, whether it's social or like Cheah was saying about whether it's social, we now look into CRMs and CMS already when we do things for an event. Why we do the event? So we want to collate the data to have a better CRM or get a better CMS scenario out of it. And of course, you compare it with traditional above the line and out of home and things like that, which is maybe later, Cheah is dying to share metaverse and NFT to us later on. So I'll leave that to Cheah a bit later. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. And I'm sure we can get into the technicalities of that in a while. Dato, can you share with us perhaps some thoughts on what challenges you think we will face when we want to organize hybrid events?
Yeah, I think I'm not from this industry. I'm from the other side, you know, the dark side, maybe we should call it. So I think part of the thing is we are here today is that how do we organize it or we attract more people to come or engage, right? Whether it's hybrid or in person, so that you can monetize things, right? So the industry itself can continue to do. So how could the industry itself adjust, right? So, like for example, for me, you know, before all this pandemic set in, I'm responsible for the company operation in Asia, right? They actually kind of created that position for me, you know, because they are Midwest company. Most of them don't own even international passport. You know, they really don't go, right? So one of the things those days, early days, decide is if I'm going to build a factory here and able to attract customers to come, I want to build in an area that is nice. Yes, it needs to be price competitive, but that's not my number one position. You know, I prefer to go to places where there are a lot of competitors, because that means usually a lot of supply chain has already been developed, right? Your supply chains and abilities and your engineers and managers will all be there, right? So from the perspective of my side to the customers is going to travel. Most of my customers are from United States or North America, Europe, you know, so they're going to travel very far away. So if they're going to travel some miles and then they go to some paddy field, nothing against paddy field, okay? But you know, right, it's not going to be very interesting for them to come many times. And they're like, I'm going to send my engineer over here, and all they see about is, you know, there's no decent hotels, there's no decent other activities. They want to go to a pub, or they want to go to a nightclub, or to go for a drink, or go for a nice dinner, or some places to see over the weekend. There isn't any. So my focus has always been built. So I built, when I first started, we had only 48 people. By the time I left, we had more than 10,000 people over the stretch of 20 years, right? So I built factories in Penang from 18,000 square feet to almost 1.7 million, you know, right, over the trend. Then I built factories in Bangkok, in Xiamen, in Hangzhou. And then, you know, so all these are what I consider to be a reasonable tourist area. China is why it's not Shanghai, Beijing is because it's expensive. And most of those guys' customers are actually somewhere in China. So they actually, these are the cities that actually they go to for holiday, you know. Yeah, they may have, the first time they may go to Shanghai, they may go to Chengdu, or they may go to Xi'an or Beijing. But after that, they tend to go to some other less secondary cities, you know, a tourist city that is more relaxing, and where these cities kind of fit that kind of bill, right? So back to your question, we have been in a pandemic. People have got used to this video conferencing, Zoom, and so on, right? It's not as immersive, but business discussion is always kind of boring, right? so that need requirements is not there. Now, I think there's a significant pent-up demand for people who want to travel, right? They want to travel, even though just to get out, right? You know? So what we see here is that how do we attract the people to come here, right? Back again, because there's also this concern about safety. There's this concern about all the complication. Rules can get changed anytime. Malaysia is not the only country that rules changes all the time regarding, you know, SOPs and so on. A lot. Airline changes all the time, you know, and so on. So there is a lot of a barrier or a significant hurdle to wanting to travel. And they have got used to this video conferencing that can solve maybe 60–70% of the problem. But for activities that need to speed up, very fast transfer of technology that we all are in, you know, that require a lot of time technicians, engineers, and supply chains and so on to do. So I think the hotel, I mean, there is an opportunity for this industry to how do we get the people to be immersed into it, right? Get interested to come. I mean, I've been watching a lot of travel channel, travel thing, you know. For example, Penang and KL doesn't feature very much, you know, compared to cities like, you know, Bangkok, Shanghai, or Beijing, or Tokyo, or Osaka, or Kyoto, you know. So we actually have very, very little, you know, considering that I know we Penang tend to be very proud that our city is ranked this here, ranked that here, but when I see in the video, you know, when I see TV, you know, it looks like Mr. Anthony Bourdain, like, I don't know what, you know, there's 8 seasons or 9 seasons before he finally came, and he came once, you know, right? So the thing is not so much that we cannot put a feature, we cannot get our Malaysian Tourism Board to project Malaysia, but really, I think today, people trust a lot of time this personality more. So how can we get ourselves in that even more? Get these people to be interested to come, and we need to script it out or as much as we can to show the variety. Penang should not be only food and visiting a few temples, you know. I think we need to increase a lot of diversity of what we can show to them, you know, right? Yeah, we have a beach, but we don't really publicize that very much, you know. We don't publicize, we actually publicize a lot of time on the food around it. I mean, yeah, not everybody, not every you know, Caucasian or white guy is going to love our, you know, Assam laksa that much, you know, right? You know, maybe they will with the fried chicken, but or nasi lemak, but it's not everybody's dish, you know, right? So the way I see is that how do you think it differently? How can we bring these people here? You know, this a lot of my customers they came over here. Later on they come on their own. They start to spread the words around. Right? You know, Penang is not very well known in the United States, but increasingly more, you know, especially when we start to build a lot of their factories, a lot of these country factories are based somewhere in Malaysia or even in Penang, you know, for that matter. So I'm not sure I answer your question directly, but I'm trying to give a different skew towards we can't, I think there's an opportunity to do things differently. The hybrid is here to stay. A lot of video conferencing here say travel will go down. It will slowly come back up again, you know, because meeting face to face is definitely more efficient. There's no question about it. But once a competitor or each other competitor start to do that, you know, more and more company is going to open up the travel, right? So as far as the tourism industry is concerned, we can always make that more attractive, make it more safe, make it more interesting. You know, then you know, there's more things to do, you know, and so on, right? You know, feature ourselves in news or in those travel channels or those episodes. I think a lot of people watch Netflix and all this during the shutdown. That people are used to looking for, because they couldn't travel, so they start to look at travel channels or something like that. So, but we don't feature very much, you know, and most of I watch one is usually Western style, you know, with what the West sees, you know. So I don't see Malaysia or even Penang feature very much. But I see probably 10 times more Bangkok than Penang, right? That's all I have. Thanks. Mm-hmm.
Okay, Dato. Thanks for giving that different skew or twist to to what we were discussing about. And I think you were talking about getting perhaps the right kind of influencer. Mm-hmm. I mean, we talk about social
correct.
media
Influencer.
skills
Mm-hmm.
and influencers, but this is in a different way. Mm-hmm. Top-level influencer that can perhaps draw attention to Malaysia. Not quite events, but but the happenings are here.
I mean, Semicon is going to have an exhibition in Penang on June 21st to 23rd, I believe, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so there is a lot of nearby companies. There's a Malaysian pavilion, there's a Singapore pavilion. So Semicon, Southeast Asia, I would say. Southeast Asia, the event will be held during the 3 days. So there will be quite a few people traveling over here. I mean, it's still early days of opening up, but I think there's opportunity there if anybody can figure a way to connect, you know, with the organizers and get our message across that Penang is open for business, you know, and so on and so forth, right? Mm-hmm.
I mean, if
sorry.
Tunku. If I can just add on to what Dato YJ mentioned, right, about the experience that Penang can provide, right? I think that is very important. This is just my 2 cents worth, yeah. I think the industry players, right, have to upskill their offerings to create the kind of experience that you can't replace through virtual platforms, right? We're talking about hybrid here. So I know hybrid is here to stay, that is for a fact, because there may be a lot of unforeseen circumstances, there may be last minute changes that people may not be able to travel, right? But the industry players, the providers will have to, in terms of their products and services, try to make it very interesting, a wow factor, that we can encourage these, travelers who are on a fancier, whether deciding to join or not to. I can still dial in, virtually. But if you have that kind of experience that it can't be replaced, through the virtual platform, that is the key selling point, that you can attract them over. That will help to increase the influx of tourists coming into the state. It's just what I feel. Yeah.
If you allow me to add a few
on
things.
The metaverse?
Oh, no. The same topic.
No.
The same topic. Because when we look at it, there is a division of a B2B and a B2C scenario. So if you go to B2C and B2B, generally we go back to the awareness. If you look in the sphere or the strategy, in the awareness, lead generation, conversion, and remarketing. So if it's a physical event or a digital event, if it's for a B2B, it will be different, and B2C will be generally different. So with the audience that we talk about, does it take in relationship to the business recovery of the tourism and mastering hybrid events for tourism itself? There's tourism, there's corporate, there's sporting, there's leisure, and business events. In our association, Marshals, we actually do a lot more business events. So the business event multiplier impact for the economy is larger rather than the FITs and the leisure, which is actually the series stores is a lot is different. And then it brings in different value, it brings in a bit more legacy. So if we address it, for a face-to-face event, I think we are generally very well prepared and it's just waiting for the time to come on board. Yeah. So I think how do we improve and innovate is one thing for that, and how do we take this opportunity to lead the curve when actually everything comes back to norm, inverted comma, right? And it's I think the earlier conversation the panel was talking about was confidence, which is the most important thing for confidence. People confident for attending, people confident in participating, right? And then of course, this is a G2G decision and a SOP comes in play. But on the other end of it will be the virtual. So how do you attract audience and how do you keep audience will be very different from keeping a physical audience. And now we are talking about a hybrid, which we have the virtual and we have the in-person or physical. So we need to have my opinion, we would have to have the hybrid itself would have to have the element of the content of the physical or in-person, and the virtual, the content is similar, but the structure of the program should be different, because how to hold the crowd in the physical audience, it will be different from how to hold the crowd in the virtual world. And of course, yet, if in the virtual world you can use Unreal engines, you can do more things that are trendier, you can do campaigns, you got competitions and things like that, and you use technology to do it. Here would be, which is afterwards, Prasad going to sing the single afterwards, which will entertain the live audience afterwards, right? So that will be different, because the experience of people listening to him to sing his single, his first single, in a physical manner and the digital manner will be different experience, right? That would be how it would be, from my opinion, to add on.
All right.
I'm not sure whether Prasad agrees.
Tunku, I want to, come back to your question. You asked the challenges of organizing a hybrid event, or that was you asked, right?
Yes.
So if I may answer that. See, basically, this is a community of, tour operators or event planners and all that. We are sitting in this room. So this is my experience as a technology provider, right? So when we basically pitch for an event, to a corporate, or a corporate comes to us and say, okay, can you give us the technology for our event? The operator or the event organizer doesn't really have adequate knowledge about how to organize a hybrid event, because it's pretty new. You can't complain to them because just 2-3 years old stuff for them. They were all the way doing all that physical events. So I think it's very important for us to understand that the community should be educated on how to pull off successful events, because it's a lot to do with the benefits. I am a strong believer of technology, how technology changes all this while. Just not about tourism industry, talk about other industries, right? How banking has changed, how technology has changed, the supply chain. It was all revolutionized, and I think event industry is going through that, right? We can't deny the fact that, oh, this is just a short term, or no, it's not. It's been proven around the world, and how we can utilize this into our benefit. So it starts with education, right? I think the trade need to be educated on how, because the customers are actually, they are already online. They know the benefit of it. The corporates know that it is important for them to do a hybrid event because they are concerned about their data. They're concerned about how they can pull in global crowd on a fraction of the cost, right? They're also concerned about, how efficient the whole system is, right? If somebody missed, they can again rewatch, stuff like that. So I think, maybe bodies like PSUB and MySUB, they should basically have a training program sort of thing, or probably a workshop to educate that, okay, guys, this is how we're going to do hybrid event, right? This is like a manual, like you can go and learn these things so that you are better prepared when the client asks, what it is. Because we, frankly speaking, there are a lot of, we also have resellers who use our platform. A lot of gap we could see from what the customer wants, and by the time we get the message changes, because the reseller is taking everything from a physical point of view, right? So I think we should always initiate those kind of activities to educate the trade, and this is going, anyway, I mean, we can see the results. It's in high demand, people we are actually, today we have subsequently doing 3 events in our platform. This is the 3rd. So it's a huge demand in the market, but there are very less people who can actually pull this off. So I would, invite, all of our trade to actively participate and get hang of it, so that, this can we can even stand in competition with technology providers from, competition countries, neighboring countries. Malaysia has huge potential. It's just a matter of learning how to do it, right?
Yeah. Dato, would you agree? You said you are not in the industry.
I actually agree.
Listening to what Presanth said.
I agree that what Mr. Presanth says, that if we can set up training, development course to get through certain stages as to get a better hybrid program, right? I will also say the hybrid program kind of like, in summary, kind of divide into 2, lack of experience, right? One is that you're passive, you watch, right? You can watch, go to a concert, people film the concert, and you may be live inside. So a good example, and the other one, you actually get very interactive in it. I think the first part, the technology is well developed. It's only that it costs quite a bit to do all that in a good way. I'm old, unfortunately, I'm old enough to remember when I watched, Premier League, or those they weren't called Premier, First Division in the English soccer, English football. It was black and white. 20-inch mono, right? Resolution very poor. You say, oh, number 27, number 6 kick. You can't even see the number on the back of the shirt. And now you can see today, right? You can see they had done such an excellent job of getting you to create the atmosphere, or immerse yourself in the atmosphere. You set a big TV, sound system,
instant replay.
Instant replay, you can see all the kind of thing. Of course, you don't have the atmosphere there where all your Man U fan or Liverpool fan cheering, you lost that. But I think you get quite a bit there, right? Unless you are a guy who go to football show live every day, you don't quite exactly know what you miss, and you actually get very immersive. Right, you set up a proper TV, right? So I think that part, can be done very well, right? I think we have the technology, companies or even hotels or what can set it up, and you can charge people for coming in to, to get that kind of immersive experience. That's why I think we went to Mama's store, you know, because the TV is so big and you got all your members, you know, so you create a bit of that experience as well, right? But the challenge obviously is now interactive. Now you can, because I also have to say, we are not as good communication-wise. A lot of us don't communicate in our mother tongue. Some of them don't even have truly a mother tongue. They speak 5 languages, so not very good at any one of them, you know. So expressing word-wise is a bit lacking. Right. So they have to be like face-to-face so they can see your body language and see your facial experience, you know, in that sense. So that part is still in progress. I see that it's still very limited ability. Of course, it can be done, you know, you can create the right, but that will be an actor, you know, you see some really good actor by seeing the expression, the way they behave, you can like, hey, you guess what the guy is trying to convey, right, you know, but most of us don't live in that kind of world, right? So in short, I agree we can improve, but how the technology is not quite there, the approach is not quite clear out if you want to have a truly interactive, so that's why it's still a hybrid. The important thing is that what can be done through passive interaction, some Q&A, versus those that you really need to be there. And I believe tourism needs to be able to show that they needs to be, the immersive experience, the interactive experience is what that is important. You can't taste a wine, you can't taste nasi lemak through a virtual, right? You know, so how do you create that? Yeah. So when you create something, you got to think. I think you got to think like what can be done, what cannot be done, you know, and that's how you package it separately, you know, right? You know? So that's my input to that. Thank you.
Cheah, maybe, or Mark, one of you. What do you think? What kind of organization would be better suited to bring this to the industry, to help educate or familiarize the industry with the potential of online events or hybrid events, and how we can go about it?
I think, for a start, in the state of Penang, I think PSAP is the right body to actually, you know, help us organize and get all the industry players together, because we have the IPP program, which we are all part of the program as well. So if we, you know, authorities, bodies like them, PSAP, MASIOS, MISAP, you know, if we can pull this out together, right, I think it is actually very good, very beneficial for the industry, right? Not just limiting to only the partners, but maybe opening up the opportunity for others to benefit from that as well. It's education. Education should be for everybody, right? Anyway, the more we do this hybrid model, the more we'll be getting good at it. Right? I think this is all about practice making it perfect, right? So maybe in terms of Masio, Mark can elaborate more. I
want to say hello to my mom. Okay, it's very interesting that you said that immersive and you say in that sense. Actually, it's very, very interesting, because when we talk about business recovery, we are still traditionally thinking there must be a physical event. The whole idea is to have economic impact transactions done.
Yes.
All right, and we talk about mastering hybrid event, and what I was just saying is now was physical, in person, virtual, then that's hybrid. But if you imagine what, combined with Dato, what you were just saying is now, if it's a more immersive event, that's where I can share my half a cent understanding of metaverse, right? If you can create an environment that can be more immersive, and yet that audience that we're talking about, which is actually the digital natives rather than the digital immigrants, right? So if you can capture their imagination, yet they are playing the game, and you can still convert them to become your customer. That's the objective of it. That's the bottom line objective of it. It can be combined with the physical experience simultaneously, or it could be done prior, or it can be done on a follow-up basis. It do not have to be done, in my opinion, it does not have to be done on a simultaneous basis. So to me, very important is we have to change the narrative. If everything that we need to talk about is we have to change the narrative on how we see business events or consumer events being run. So it not necessarily has to be a virtual or a physical or a hybrid. It can be complementing each other prior, during, or after. So if we all look at it, Prasad talks about education, which is very true. Many people think that virtual event is far cheaper than physical event. Which is, do you agree with that? No, you're supposed to say no.
No, comparing physical, of course it is. Yes. Comparing physical, it is.
Yeah, generally, it's not. It's if you do a normal stream to a Facebook or YouTube, it's free with a little bit of expenses inside. But if you stream it to a private server, if you want the data of people attending, how long they attended, which topic they attended, these basic platforms cannot give you. So there's programming involved. Yes, there's programming. So all this data, everybody speaks about data-driven decisions. So if we live and walk our talk, this information should be very useful in that sense to determine whether business recovery or mastering. Today's topic is the hybrid events, which redefining hybrid events. So I think, Tunku, you allow me to say it's
Yes.
changing the narratives actually.
Okay. I'm looking at the time, and we have just less than 10 minutes. Is there anybody that's online that's got questions coming in? If we don't see any questions on the screen, I guess there's no questions online, I presume? None.
No.
And anyone in the audience would like to express an opinion or ask a question of our distinguished panel here? Not of me, of them.
The easy one I will answer. The harder one,
Anybody?
Prasad and
I can sense that coming.
Nobody yet? No questions? Oh, well, I think you've done a very good job.
I got a question.
We're not finished.
I've got a question.
Thank you, Mark.
Oh, yeah, you have a question, not of me, yeah?
Okay, I've got a question. How does the travel trade make money now?
How does
How does
Travel
the,
industry.
Yeah, the travel industry make money now? Now,
Okay, if you ask me, they should do more and more hybrid events. That's the easiest way to make money. See, but the thing is like this. We have the travel industry, and then we have the event industry, right? Even though it's a mix of both. And like, if you talk about physical format, there are thousands of events which happens, people know that how to basically propose an event for every subject because they've been doing. Actually, virtually, you are actually doing the same thing. But when you talk about, like, we have done events for a department, government department, and they've been doing physical events for the last so many years. And surprisingly, when they went hybrid, they have realized that almost 30% participants are from 12 countries, which they haven't even promoted. They never promote this event in these 12 countries, but they've seen people are already they registered, they paid, and that they attended. So they tried to find out how these people have come in. So basically, it was from their Facebook posts and all. So there was a requirement which people always wanted to understand how their conference goes, but now they have a chance. Last time they didn't have, because they were never invited. It was meant for the local crowd. So I think it is very important for us to understand, how we can leverage platforms, right? The kind of features, right? You have, yes, everybody talks about the networking opportunities of, you're meeting somebody, and then that physical is one side. But there's a lot of things where you can actually, for example, if you're talking about a virtual side of an exhibition where you can actually see who went to your booth and how much time they spent in the booth, what all product they were interested. And a lot of such measurables are impossible when it comes to a physical setup, right? So yes, definitely it's not about going virtual, it's about hybrid. So we should also take advantage of what we have, what the industry has come to, right? Like if you look at, the snail mail become email, right? That revolution of, everybody used to write long letters and then it's turned into an email now, right? You can just simply send an email in a second from your phone. So I think the event industry is pretty much going through some sort of revolution, I could see. You know, I hope, you know, we as a community will adopt it to make, you know, revenue out of this, to have, because once many minds think, you know, a lot of ideas comes in, right? I think that's one of the things why we are doing this session today.
Okay, thank you. We have one question, sorry.
I hear you.
Yeah.
I hear you, but
We couldn't hear you, but now I can hear you.
We can hear you, yeah.
I mean, let's look at it in reality,
Right.
right? When you talk about an event, whether it's virtual event or hybrid event, the peripheral business is not there. When you talk about a physical event, you got the hoteliers coming in, you got the restaurants coming in, the tour operators coming in, the attraction areas. You get what I mean?
Yeah.
We are not looking at data analysis because cloud is already doing that. Not to interrupt the cloud industry. Yeah? So, I mean, let's face it. This so-called virtual or hybrid will take another couple of years before it sinks into us. We are now still, I would say 95% still on the conventional mode. I mean, that's how I feel. If I speak to someone, they want to physically come to Malaysia. Not see Malaysia through a virtual thing or a hybrid. That's reality. They want to explore, experience it, so they can go back and tell the rest of the world what is it to be in Malaysia.
Thank you.
You get what I mean? I mean, it's different from being in Formula One and hearing the sound of the engines than watching it on TV.
Okay, if I may,
Smell the burnt tire.
answer that question, right? So basically, there are two ways of looking at this. You are talking about the physicality. I mean, of course, tourism, you know, we want people to be here, we want people to spend money, book hotels, buy the transport, right? All that we expect. But there is other, I mean, if you talk about our experience of doing events in other industries like medical, for example, right? We have done conferences online, virtual, and they have made more money from the attendee fees than they're doing physical, you know, previous years. We have done events with construction industry and all that, where they never expect more than 200, 300 people, but end up having 800, 900 people from many places for the content they paid, and so it's actually, you can't look at everything from the physicality perspective, because if you look at, yes, I want everyone to come. So you cannot, like for example, we have done an event virtually which had 20,000 people attended. And you can't do that event in a place like, on a physical setup, it is not possible, because, you know, so these are two different things, and you can't really look at from one lens. These are two different lenses. And it is basically, it's not like two products competing each other. These are two different products. And you look at the physical event from the way you should be promoted and the way you bring people in. So as I said, you know, it has to be who is your audience and what is the focus of the event. If your focus is to bring people physical, you need to make sure that the format of the event is to entice people to come in, to taste, to dance, and all that. But if you talk about selling your content and you are not worried about bringing them anywhere, then that's a different marketing strategy. So this has to be treated two different products. Then everything works.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, we're going to have to wind up very soon, but I have here on the screen here a question from a lovely lady called Wendy Yang. I know her personally, very active SPA member, and she said, this is really a marvelous panel full of humor and very constructive information, dear Tunku Iskandar. How do you define, I hope she's not asking me, asking the panel, I hope, but this is actually a good summary question. How do you define a successful hybrid event? What are the essentials? Maybe I can start with Cheah.
Well, Tunku, to me, when you organize a hybrid event, I agree with what Presanth has mentioned, right? We need to look at it, what is our focus, what is our objective, right? Do we want to push more to physical audience or live audience, or do you want to actually gain coverage and attendance more on the virtual side of it, right? So it depends on what we are looking at. Well, ultimately, the short answer is that the content, right? The content creation. It has to be separate. It has to be different. Different sets entirely, like what Mark mentioned earlier. For a live event, you need to have a different form of engagement, like some physical sessions, like an experience that you can't be done virtually, or it cannot be replaced virtually, like tasting the food, breathing the air, listening to, getting the fresh air along Batu Ferringhi Beach and all that, right? Experiencing the 5-star resorts that we have, right? And a different sets of content to ensure that we get the full engagement, the interaction, and the participation of our crowd on the virtual platform, right? The key to ensure that we have a successful event is the content creation that can get both audiences, participating interactively. The center part of it, the middle ground, that is what we are looking at, right? So of course there are many advantages of having it hybrid. I mean, I do not need to elaborate, right? Well, we build confidence and trust through physical interactions, which we can't get it through virtually. And I've mentioned earlier as well, how do we attract people to come in here, to promote tourism, right? So you got to make sure that the experience there's a wow factor that bring people in, okay, if they are able to. So it's all, to me, it's interrelated, right? Yeah.
Well, if this was actually a virtual event, we would have been cut off by now because it says time's up. But I'm still going to go and ask Mark, what would you say is how do you define a successful hybrid event?
Okay, there's not an easy answer for that, but I'll take it, give you a minute to do that. So if I would go to start thinking whether it's a B2B, B2C, the objective of the thing. Remember I said about the needs, the size, the budget, all the necessary questions. If we do a physical event, it's the 5 senses like Cheah was saying. The 5 senses, how you do the engagement, how you do the experience, the emotions and all this. If we do like a virtual or a hybrid event, like Presanth was saying, imagine with me, it's a white space. You can either build a theme park, you can build a beach, or you can build a hotel. So it's not replacing one another. It's actually either complementing or running simultaneously in that sense. So you imagine it's a white space. We believe that, of course, naturally, the physical, the in-person one, especially Marshall's, because the B2B component, everyone is dying to do the face-to-face. And there are some elements in face-to-face that cannot be replicated in the virtual or hybrid scenario. That's a fact. Yeah. So like the 5 senses you cannot achieve. But you cannot create the 5 senses, you can create the meta senses, you see. So like Presanth was saying, the objective of your doing, how you do what you do, and of course it's about time and money. So to me, is it why you do, what you do, where you do, when you do, who you do it for? Right? If I were to put it in that sense. Because if we have to talk about, if it's a branding purpose, it's different. Right? Like Presanth was saying that people don't understand this because the education, the branding, the confidence is not there. The strategy will lead to the tactic, and the tactic would lead to the implementation. Okay. So the question of implementation of a hybrid event, I think we can discuss separately. So it must go back to trend and the evolution of the technology and the events. Today, as we speak, if I say this is the way to go, next month I may not believe in it anymore already, you know, because things change very fast. So if there's one thing to summarize, in my opinion, to say we all in the same industry have the same purpose, but we are all going to a different route. So we just have to start having a similar narrative that we can all agree on, then we can all be aligned, as in all roads lead to Rome. It's a matter of how long you take to go to Rome.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Presanth, any
Tunku, thank you for that question.
Please.
So basically, if you ask about what is a successful, that's the question, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
How do you define it?
So basically, if you ask, like today, this is hybrid event, right? We have, so when, I'm sure when PISA planned this, or Pata Malaysia, they planned it, they basically have, they send out to people that, okay, we are going to do this event, you want to join, you can pay, and then if you, so there's also an option of, if you are not able to make it, you can register as a virtual attendee. right? So you are not leaving anybody alone there. There's an option of everyone can attend this event. Today, we have all these people who are here who wanted to have a physical interaction. They want to meet people. They want to meet their old friends. Everyone come in, and we have this audience. At the same time, there's another set of audience who couldn't come because they had their own other commitments, but they still are able to join the event, which was not there previously. So this is an amazing opportunity we have, and thanks to the technology and COVID of what we have been into this. So I think this is, we don't need to look anywhere. This is a successful hybrid event that's happening here. How many of you agree with me that?
So depends on the objectives.
At least for the format's sake, this is basically a successful.
Right.
That's what I want to say.
I'm sure it is.
Yeah.
And
I kind of come from a slightly different angle. I think my understanding is a lot of areas is looking at monetizing it, right? So one way to look at it is measuring the success is how much could you actually get the revenue, in the present circumstances, For example, if let's say this event or any event that you monetize, you're intended to attract 1,000 participants, right? And you get close to 900, you will consider under this as successful, right? The hybrid portion and those attending virtual is an added bonuses that it could be monetized immediately at a lower rate, or it could be the future attraction factor for people to come, they get attracted and later your subsequent event, they will be interested in maybe participating and that's how one. So an analogy is good. Analogy I have, it's not exactly the same analogy, it's in the movie industry. When the pandemic hit, everything is closed, right? Similar to your tourist industry largely, right? So they struggle, how do they want to monetize? Should they hold back all their blockbusters, all the Marvel movies and every movie, and they tried streaming, right? Yes, they managed to get some, but they discovered that it will never be as much as in cinema. So now they're moving into some level of hybrid that's become selective. Some goes to streaming, some goes to movies theater only, at least for the first 6 weeks or 39 days or 50 days or whatever, and then they go streaming. So looking at that industry, movie industry, which is also a very big industry, and populated by some really smart people, right? Big corporation, Disney, Paramount, and the name it all. So you can see that they struggle through this pandemic, and I think looks like they're coming out of it. Yes, the people, the movie goers tend to be selective which movie they go because they are not yet that confident to attend 2 movies a week or 2 movies a month. Yeah, they must only go to once every month, once every 2 months, right? So become selective. So the studios gets creative, which they think they can attract a wider audience, they release in a cinema only. Those they think they have less, they go to streaming only, or those in between. And those who follow in a way like hybrid, So I'm not trying to say the industry, tourist industry is the same as the movie industry, but you can see how reasonably they have adapted, in today, and they seem to be in much progress, because they are also very dependent on people coming to an event, which is going into a theater and watching a movie for 2 hours or 1.5 hours to 2 hours, right? That's how I would say how we measure success, how we should take example, the benchmark what some other industry, how they go about doing it, right? Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So I'm sorry we have to wind up the panel now. I'd like to thank the panel members because I'm sure they have brought to you, or to me anyway, a very much clearer perspective in terms of what hybrid events are about and how to get it to empower our tourism industry even further. And as the question to the last one, it depends also on the objectives, whether you achieve your objectives or not. Now, we have the experience of the past 2 years, and tourism industry is a very fragile one, and we have to continue to remember that because we cannot forget the experience we have in these last 2 years of coming up with these innovations. They might come in handy again in the future. We hope not. We hope we'll be able to go beyond this into a better plane. But we hope to achieve to be in the leading edge of what we have been able to achieve up to now, and especially hybrid events to take up to the next episode of Malaysian tourism. So thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for virtual audience. And I'm sorry we ran out of time and gone beyond the time. Thank you.
Thank you.